Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Now let that one hit, my friends, right in the chest, because when it comes to love, to attraction, to the silent dance between men and women, we've been taught to play blind and then wonder why we keep crashing. Have you ever noticed the more you chase a man, the faster he forgets you? That's not a coincidence, and that's not bad timing. That's not because you're too much or not enough. That's psychology. That's the unconscious at work. And today we're going to walk straight into that fire, and not to burn, but to rise. Before we go deeper, press that like button. Hit subscribe, and don't do it for me. Do it for you. Because if you've ever felt like you were doing everything right and still being overlooked, what we're about to uncover could shift the entire game forever. Now, hey ladies, imagine this. You're walking through a museum. It's quiet. Every wall is lined with portraits, beautiful, perfect, smiling faces, all trying to be seen. But then tucked in the corner, there's a single canvas, barely colored, just a single stroke. Bold, unfinished, raw, and yet somehow that's the one you can't look away from. Why? Because perfection is easy to ignore, but mystery pulls us in. Most women were taught to be the full painting. Be sweet, be polished, be easy to love. But the truth is, real love doesn't come from perfection, it comes from presence. Let me tell you something most won't. A man's love doesn't live in his logic. It lives in the part of him he doesn't even understand. The part he rarely shows, the part that aches to feel worthy, but is too proud to say so. That's the ego. That's the shadow. And if you've ever heard it, even by accident, you're not alone. You see, every man walks around with armor, and under that armor, a wound, a silent fear that he's not enough, that he's not chosen, that he's not respected. And here's the crazy part, my friends. The women he loves the deepest are not the ones who avoid that wound. They're the ones who understand it, who honor it, who know how to speak to it without ever pointing at it. This isn't manipulation. This isn't some script to get his attention back. This is alchemy, a sacred transformation that begins the moment you stop trying to be the solution and start being the mirror. Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet that's where all connection starts, with truth, with wholeness, with the courage to stop pretending. So if he's pulled away, if his ego got bruised and now he's distant, if you've been giving and proving and bending just to win him back, pause, breathe. Because this isn't about chasing, it's about awakening. And the truth is, you don't need to remind him how good you are. You need to remind you are not here to beg for a place in his life. You are here to reflect something so powerful, so grounded, so deeply feminine that even his shadow leans in to listen. So stay with me, because what we're about to tap into, this ancient knowledge, this soul level awareness, it doesn't just change how men see you, it changes how you see you. And once you learn to speak to the part of a man that hides from the world, you won't need to chase love anymore. You'll become the reason it stays. Number one, the ego isn't the enemy, it's the gatekeeper. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Let that simmer for a second, my friends, because when you hurt a man's ego, whether by telling him a truth he wasn't ready to hear, pulling away when he thought he had you, or simply not needing him in the way he expected, what you really did wasn't sabotage. It was sacred. You hurt his ego? Good. Not because pain is power, but because the ego is the front door to a deeper house. And when that door cracks, just enough light slips through to reveal what he's been hiding from for years, his wound. See, we've been taught to tiptoe around male pride like it's a fragile glass. We've been told, don't bruise his ego or he'll never come back. But here's the truth Jung knew over a century ago. The ego isn't fragile. It's protective. It's armor, and every piece of armor was forged over a fear. Now imagine this. You're standing in front of a giant steel vault, cold, impenetrable, and inside that vault, a boy, not a grown man, not the confident face he shows the world, but the boy he used to be, the one who once felt unworthy, who wasn't chosen, who got caught, or who got left behind. And so what did he do? He built the vault layer by layer, charm, strength, detachment, anger, performance. And now you brushed against that door. You said something, you did something, and it shook. Of course he pulled back, and of course he acted like you offended his throne, because deep down he felt exposed. Now I know what you might be asking. Did I ruin it? Is he gone for good? Did I go too far? No, my friend, you didn't go too far. You got too close. That's what he's reacting to. He's not angry at you. He's terrified of what you touched. That's the ego in retreat. That's the shadow rising to the surface. Because as Jung taught, the shadow is everything we refuse to see in ourselves. And most men, they've never been taught how to face it, let alone share it. They were raised to perform, to protect, to win, but to reveal the hurt beneath that drive, that's foreign terrain, that's vulnerability. That's where you come in, not to rescue, but to reflect. Because when you hurt his ego, you didn't destroy the man. You touched the boy he stopped being. And if you hold that moment with strength, not guilt, you create the space where real love begins. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean we glorify causing pain. This is not about manipulation or mind games or testing him. This is about recognizing that when a man's ego gets rattled, you've found the door to his real self. Most women run from that moment. They apologize too soon. They shrink. They start chasing. But the women who stand still, who don't panic, don't fix, don't fill the silence with apologies, those are the women who get remembered because they didn't run from the wound. They respected it. A man might fight it. He might avoid you for a moment. He might go quiet. But somewhere deep in his psyche, a whisper starts. She saw me, not the polished version, not the mask. Me. And that moment, it's the seed of devotion. So no, the ego isn't your enemy, it's the gatekeeper. And the wound inside it, that's the place where the armor falls and the man begins. So don't walk away just yet, because up next, we're going deeper. You've touched the ego. Now I'm going to show you how to reflect back his highest self and become the woman he doesn't just want, but needs to rise for. Stay with me. Number 2, a man's love grows where he feels worthy, not worshipped. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. You gave him everything and got crumbs, your time, your love, your softness, your availability. And what did he give you in return? Silence, inconsistency, maybe even disappearance. Not because you weren't enough, but because he never had to rise. Now let's get into the truth, my friends, the science behind the silence. Because while your heart was leading with love, his mind was still in sleep mode. The male brain, according to neuroscience, runs on a dopamine reward system. That means he's wired biologically to pursue what brings uncertain reward, what he has to earn, what feels just out of reach. That's what lights up his brain like fireworks, not what's handed to him like a coupon. Let me bring it home with a story of Mariana, a beautiful soul. She came to me heartbroken, confused. I did everything, she said. I gave him all of me. I never said no. I showed up every time he called. And every time he drifted further, she was loyal, devoted, kind. But she had unknowingly abandoned herself because devotion is powerful. But self-abandonment, that's the poison in disguise. You see, when a man doesn't have to earn your presence, when there's no spark of challenge, no inspired tension, he doesn't anchor emotionally. He doesn't bond, because bonding doesn't happen through ease. It happens through investment. When Mariana stopped chasing, when she turned her gaze inward, started living in her power again, everything shifted. He came back curious, chasing, awake. Why? Because now he felt he had to rise, not because she punished him, but because she stopped handing herself over without purpose. Her energy became something he had to reach for. My friends, love is not a reward for self-sacrifice, and a man will never worship what he didn't first work for. So if you're giving endlessly and getting emptiness in return, pause. Ask yourself, have I been devoted or have I been disappearing? Because the woman who stays rooted in her worth doesn't need to beg for love. She becomes the standard it rises to meet. And coming up next, I'll show you how to reflect that standard back to him in a way that makes his very soul lean in. Stay with me. Number 3, be his mirror but reflect his higher self. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Let that one breathe, my friends, because if you think a man falls in love with you just as you are, you're only seeing half the picture. A real man doesn't fall for the woman who gives him peace, praise, and perfect agreement all the time. He falls for the woman who holds up a mirror and shows him the man he could be. That's the soul mirror. And when you master this, when you learn to reflect his potential instead of coddling his comfort, you become unforgettable. See, Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine image that lives inside every man's unconscious. It's his internal compass toward love, intuition, beauty, and transformation. And here's the wild part. When he meets a woman who activates that image, who embodies that essence, he doesn't just desire her, he projects meaning onto her. He elevates her. He becomes devoted to her. But here's the key. You don't activate his anima by praising his surface. You do it by seeing his depth, then leaving just enough mystery to make him reach for it. And let me paint it for you. He tells you about a dream he once had, to write a book, start a business, learn guitar, and you don't say, "That's nice." You look him in the eye and say, "I can see that version of you, the one who actually finishes that dream. That guy, he's magnetic." Then you smile and leave the silence hanging. That space, that's where his transformation begins. You didn't criticize, you didn't coddle, you reflected, you challenged with grace. The soul mirror isn't about fixing him, it's about letting him see himself through your eyes and wanting to rise. And here's the part that most miss. When you hold that energy, not pushy, not needy, just knowing, he starts to feel something he doesn't feel often, inspired. Because deep down, every man wants to be chosen by a woman who also believes he can become something more. And next, I'll show you how to keep him leaning forward, not by giving him more of you, but by being like the moon, present but untouchable. Stay with me. Number 4, be the moon, not the sun. If you are always available, you are no longer desirable. It's but deeply true, my friends. And see, most women were taught to love like the sun, always shining, always present, always giving. But here's the secret most don't learn until they're burned out and broken. Men don't fall for constant light. They fall for phases, for rhythm, for mystery. The sun gives warmth, yes, but it also overwhelms, burns. The moon, she appears, disappears, reveals in shadows, and somehow we chase her, even when we know we can't hold her. That's the paradox of presence. Ladies, let's get honest. And how many times have you been always there for him? Quick to reply, always free, always saying yes, and then he pulls away, grows distant, stops chasing. You didn't scare him off. You suffocated the space where mystery used to breathe. The male brain is wired for what scientists call intermittent reward. It's the same chemistry that fuels gambling addiction. It's not predictable praise that keeps him coming back. It's the anticipation, the space, the possibility. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't about playing hard to get or disappearing to punish him. That's scarcity, and it stinks of fear. This is about creating presence with edges. This is about living a life he must earn his way into. Let me put it this way. Your presence should feel like a favorite song, one he wants to hear again, not like background noise he can tune out. And so when he texts you and you're in your flow, your joy, your own world, you don't drop it all. You respond when it's real, when your energy is aligned, when you actually have something to give. And this isn't selfish, this is sacred. Because when a man senses you are full with your passions, your mystery, your boundaries, he doesn't just want your attention. And he respects it. He starts leaning in. He starts wondering. And wondering is where longing is born. Be the moon, my friends, and don't dim. Just dip below the horizon sometimes and watch how he starts searching the sky for you. Next, I'll show you how to use that same rhythm to reach the part of him most women are afraid to touch, his shadow. And when you learn to meet it with grace, that's when he bonds with you, not just in body, but in soul. Stay with me. Number 5, touch the shadow, don't shame it. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Now breathe that in, my friends, Because every man you've ever loved, every strong, silent type, every confident leader, every emotionally unavailable mystery, he's carrying something under the surface. A shadow, and it doesn't make him broken, it makes him human. See, Jung taught us that the shadow isn't evil, it's just hidden. It's the part of the self we disown, bury, or pretend doesn't exist. For men, that shadow often looks like shame, insecurity, fear of failure, fear of weakness. It's the dragon in his chest. And most women, they see the dragon and try to slay it. They argue, fix, over-explain, overgive, hoping if they just say the right thing, love hard enough, or stay patient long enough, he'll heal. But healing doesn't come from being rescued. It comes from being seen. Let me say that again for the ones in the back. Your power is not in rescuing him, it's in witnessing him. This is where mirrored vulnerability comes in. You want to connect with a man's soul? Start here. Share a truth, not a performance, not a pretty version, a real one. And sometimes I feel like I'm too much, like I have to tone myself down to be loved, and then let it sit. No rushing, no explanation. That silence, it invites him in. And when he shares his own, maybe something like, I've always been afraid I'm not enough. You don't jump in with, no, that's not true, or let me fix it. You hold it. You say, I see that, and I respect the hell out of your courage to say it. Because when a man is finally safe enough to show you what he's been hiding, even from himself, and you don't run, that's when he bonds, and not to your body, to your presence. The shadow is not something to be feared. It's a place to be met, gently, bravely, without judgment. And the women who can do that, they don't just stay in a man's mind, they stay in his story. Next, I'll show you how to speak in a way that makes him lean in further, not because he has to, but because he wants to. A love that feels like leadership. Stay with me. Number 6, love isn't a game, but it has rules. When you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. Feel that one, my friends, because far too many women are giving time, energy, words, and love like it's a clearance sale. Everything must go. And what do they get in return? Silence, ambivalence, confusion. Not because they're not lovable, but because they've been taught that love means access, instant replies, endless patience, zero boundaries. And let me shift that for you right now. Love isn't a game, but it does have rules. And one of the most sacred rules, stop being available on demand. Start being available on purpose. You're not Amazon Prime. You're not a vending machine. You're not here to be summoned with a text and validated with a breadcrumb. You're a woman of value, and value has structure. And now, I'm not talking about playing games. This isn't about pretending you're busy, faking indifference, or ghosting to gain control. That's manipulation. That's fear in lipstick. This is about polarity, creating the tension that draws masculine energy toward feminine presence, not because you're withholding, but because you're centered. Let me introduce you to something I call the pause principle. It's simple, it's powerful, and it will change your dynamic with men forever. And here it is. After you say something meaningful, something powerful, something that sets a boundary or reveals truth, don't explain it, don't soften it, don't rush to fill the silence. You hold. That space you create in the pause, that's where the shift happens, because silence isn't absence. It's magnetism, and it's the boldness to let your words breathe, to let your presence speak louder than your performance. Most people panic in the pause, and they rush to fix, to clarify, to beg for understanding. But you speak your truth, and then you let it land, because the woman who trusts her impact doesn't need to prove it. So next time you're tempted to send that follow-up message, or explain why you said what you said, or break your own boundary to soothe his discomfort, and don't let the silence speak for you. And coming up next, I'll show you how to make that silence even more powerful by syncing your energy with your words. So when you speak, you don't just make a point, you make a presence. And stay with me. Number 7, the body feels before the mind understands. The body expresses what the soul cannot say, and oh, does it speak loudly, my friends. And see, you can rehearse all the perfect lines, say all the right things, quote the books, repeat the affirmations, even mimic the moves you saw in some video. But if your body is screaming insecurity, if your energy is trembling with doubt, he'll feel that. And he won't remember the words, because the body feels before the mind understands. This is what we call energetic congruence, and it's the alignment between what you say and what you carry. Because confidence, real, grounded, feminine confidence, it doesn't come from being loud, it doesn't come from being aggressive, it comes from stillness in motion. Let me paint it for you. Now, two women say the same sentence. You and me, we'd be dangerous together. One says it with eyes darting to the floor, arms folded tight, voice shaky, hoping it lands. And the other, she says it slowly, with a soft smile, head high, shoulders relaxed, calm breath, steady gaze. Same words, entirely different impact, because her words came from knowing, not need. Men feel that difference in their gut. They might not be able to explain it, but they'll tell you there's just something about her. That something is your energetic signature. And so ask yourself, do your eyes say, I trust myself, or please validate me? Does your voice say I'm rooted or I'm rehearsing? And does your body say I'm full or I'm chasing? Because he's not just reading your words, and he's reading your frequency. And here's the truth most won't tell you. Feminine energy is not about being soft all the time. It's about being still in your power. The kind of stillness that makes a room lean in. So before your next conversation, before your next text, before your next moment with him, don't ask, what should I say? Ask, am I speaking from truth or from fear? Because when you speak from truth, your body follows, your voice calms, your energy lands, and he feels you, not just as a woman who knows the right words, but as a woman he doesn't want to forget. And next, I'll show you exactly when to use your words, because even the most powerful truth loses its fire if dropped at the wrong moment. Timing, my friends, is sacred. And stay with me. Number 8, you are not a strategy, you are the shift. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And here we are, my friends, full circle. You came here wondering how to make a man love you after you hurt his ego. You stayed because deep down you knew this was never just about him. It was always about you. Because real power, it's not in strategy, it's in shift. You are not a tactic. You are not a technique. You are not a line in a play. You are the woman who walks in and alters the atmosphere because she's done chasing approval and started embodying her truth. You don't just want his attention. You want his devotion. And that starts the moment you stop proving you're enough and start becoming the woman who already knows she is. This isn't about control. It's about transformation, not about changing him, but about revealing yourself. Because here's the truth, deep, raw, and liberating. When a woman awakens to her own shadow, when she learns to hold her mystery without needing it to be understood, and when she speaks with stillness and breathes with presence, she doesn't attract love, she becomes it. She no longer begs to be seen, she becomes the mirror. She doesn't need to be remembered because her energy lingers in the room long after she's gone. And that man, the one whose ego once flinched, whose pride once ran, he may not understand what changed, but he'll feel it and he'll come closer, not because you pulled, but because your presence became the place where he sees himself more clearly. That's devotion. That's depth. That's the love that doesn't fade after the chase. It deepens after the silence. And so write this one on your mirror, on your soul, on your future. You don't need to be remembered. You already are. And if this spoke to you, if this stirred something deeper than tactics and texts, then press that like button. Hit subscribe, not for more tricks, but for more truth. Because what we're building here isn't a strategy, it's a shift in love, in worth, and in womanhood. Stay grounded and stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.